Coming up on this episode of Tom Talks Rubbish.
I feel now's the time to try and make something of this life and see how I get on.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Scrubbish, and today I'm back with another interview. This time, I'm joined by the man that makes me look good. I'm joined by the one and only Jeffrey Easton from Tall Oak Productions. So, welcome to the show.
Well, hey Tom, it's great to great to chat to you. Great to be on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to chat with you. Like we said this off camera, it's very weird because we talk all the time,
Yeah,
but it's like this is our first face-to-face conversation. So, that's
absolutely.
very strange.
Yeah, indeed, and that's right. Yeah, in this day and age, of course, it's so easy to speak, over tech and Twitter or whatever. But yeah, to speak in person, yeah, it's easy to do that remotely now. But yeah, it's great to finally do this. Yeah.
I'm really excited to chat with you, my friend. So, if we take this back, Geoff, when did you first discover wrestling as an overall fan?
Yeah, right. I discovered wrestling, or I became a fan of wrestling like relatively late. It was in 1996. I was 12 at the time. God, I mean, I knew of wrestling beforehand, and for some reason, it just never appealed. Growing up, didn't have Sky. My dad, like, point blank refused to give, Rupert or stupid Murdoch, shall we say, any money, because God, it's just, yeah, don't really agree with this, like, his philosophies and everything. So I didn't get to sort of see the WWF at the time during the boom. I did go to a local show, I remember, with some friends. I think it's kind of like, I wouldn't say dragged along, but I just went along and it didn't resonate. And I still don't know what made me become a fan, but it was in 1996. I can even remember the tape it was a tape I borrowed from a friend. It was a Paul Bearer's, like, oh, it Hits from the Crypt or something. It was like a compilation, one of his Coliseum home videos. And yeah, I just remember watching some matches and that, and I don't know, just maybe it's just all meant to be. The time was right.
Do you think it was you talked about Paul Bearer there?
Yeah.
Do you think it was the Undertaker?
Um, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, he's like a legend, in the business. I can't remember really, but I mean, yeah, I've definitely been a fan of his and everything, and as we'll get into, that's definitely a fan of his work.
I'm always curious to know. Did you know what a Paul Bearer was before you started watching wrestling?
I don't know if I would have done at the time, and honestly, I think it took a. I don't know if sometimes I'm like this, sometimes I wouldn't always like, quite intelligent, but I don't always think. I don't. I think it took a while. I sort of almost got the pun almost, which sounds ridiculous now. I'm embarrassed to say, but hey, I'll share that with you. I think that I just hadn't really given it maybe much thought, but yeah, no, it was a clever. Yeah, yeah, you got to give Vince McMahon sort of credit. He was good at coming up with like characters and names and things like. Oh, for the most part, yeah. Apart from like Chili McFreeze or whatever for Stone Cold Steve Austin, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and Fang McFrost, I believe, was what? No, Mason the Mutilator was what Mankind was originally going to be called.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. Yeah, yeah. I think Mankind was definitely the right call there.
So when you get this tape and it clicks with you, where does it go from then, Geoff?
Yeah, so it's just a case of yeah, I was able to borrow like a few more tapes from this friend, and yeah, that's right. I mean, chronologically, I'm trying to think of the order now, but I remember a family friend giving me a couple of tapes. Friends of my parents, basically, their son's a few years older than me, so he had a few tapes. Actually, the Battle Royal at the Albert Hall from '91, and also the UK Rampage event from that
Ah,
from 1991. I was able to basically got both those cassettes. I think I've still got them actually, and yeah, and that was great. And so yeah, over time, I just borrowed more tapes from from a friend. I bought a few myself as well. Yes, 96, and that's right. I remember that's right. Yeah, so with this friend, he was a younger brother of a school friend of mine, essentially. And
mm.
this his older brother just wasn't into wrestling at all. So but yeah, anyway, yeah, it was I was friends with them both. Lost contact with them both, unfortunately. But yeah, so through them, I remember we went like to the video store one day, and I remember that I think it was it. Oh God, I'm trying to think if it was he or remember we got to see WrestleMania 1 basically on
Yeah.
the VHS release obviously, and that was yeah, that was really eye-opening, and I just remember at the time thinking, God, this looks like kind of terrible because it those Madison Square, well, the first WrestleMania looked just like, as I later found, it looked like just one of those Madison Square Garden house shows. There's
Yeah.
not the real glitz and glamour. Even though on the front cover, I remember it saying, "Oh, it was like the start of the tradition of glitz and glamour," something like that. It was just, yeah, there was, there were no fireworks. There wasn't much in the way of lighting. It was just, but it was really interesting to to see, and I'll still defend it because I mean, it got it, put the company on the map, didn't it? Yeah.
Mm, definitely. Do you remember the first live program you ever watched, Geoff?
Right, yeah. The first live one, and yeah, it feels like I'm bragging. I was actually, was lucky enough to go to see One Not Only in 1997, so at
Oh
Birmingham
yeah.
Links. Yeah, and actually Ben, our good friend, yeah, he was actually there too, but we didn't know each other at the time. I was at university, got to meet Ben, and yeah, so we were both at that event, and yeah, that was the first time I ever saw. Well, yeah, apart from like I said, the that local show I went to when I wasn't even like a fan. Yeah, that was 1997, and One Night Only was the first event.
You talk
It was
about going to a show when you're not a fan. How did your friends, for lack of a better word, react when you did get into wrestling? Were you still in touch with those friends you went to the show with?
yeah, it's funny that actually because yeah, I was still I mean I still still know them to this day, but yeah, at that time when I became a fan, they were maybe it says a lot about me, I don't know, but they were sort of losing interest in it. But
Mm.
um yeah, that's right. So it was kind of and at that point I sort of had got to know other like friends, like I mentioned, I think it's called Rob, but yeah, the guy who I knew who who I borrowed the tapes from, who lent me the very first tape, which got me into wrestling. So yeah, I've got a lot of thank for him to him, basically. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. As we record this in at the end of February 2025, Geoff, where's your
Yeah.
current fandom?
Yeah, my current fandom at the moment is predominantly, not only just because I work like producing like, your podcast and Ben's, but
Mm.
I do, I like a lot of the wrestling podcasts, a lot of the time, learning about what was going on behind the scenes. That's the business side of it, that interests me as well. So, Eric Bischoff's, podcast, of course, is great. So yeah, at the moment, I'm predominantly just watching like I'll call them so pay-per-views, be a traditionalist, like for instance, Elimination Chambers, like right around the corner. So I'll be, watching that. And of course, WrestleMania will be coming up, so that'll be great. Um, yeah, I need to sort of just get a routine going to actually like, because it's on Netflix, the weekly shows are on Netflix, so I need to really
Yeah.
watch, I should be like, I mean, okay, it's long, 3 hours is a long time to watch a show, but I did used to do that back in the day, let's say 2010. So yeah, I just need to sort of really just start making the most of my subscription, and I haven't mentioned anything about AEW yet, but because I'm kind of I'm on Twitter quite a bit, and not that anybody really sees it besides yourself these days. And also because of like, I forgot to say, I like watching like What Culture's like daily news, generally speaking, and WrestleMania too. There are others as well. Yeah, with AEW, this case, even though it's on like, it's weekly on ITV here, I'm just not finding myself watching it much. I mean, I've
Mm.
enjoyed what I've seen, but yeah, again, maybe get a routine going, but at the same time, there are only so many hours in the day. So yeah, I've got
You
to be sensible.
you
Yeah.
mentioned there getting a routine going when it comes to wrestling, and
Yeah.
then you mentioned 2010 and things like that. So
Yeah.
when did it finally become Geoff can watch wrestling night live now, sort of thing?
Oh, well, yeah, live, I suppose it technically was when we got the network, really. I think that was pretty much it. I mean, of course, like we're both in the UK, so to watch like an event at the time, it's a bit of an undertaking. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
WrestleMania, I've watched quite a few of those like live, and or at least started to, and maybe picked it up the next day. Yeah, back in 2010, it was a case of yeah, pre-network. I was finding like people were putting things on YouTube, so hell, I was enjoying that, and there was I used to like to actually watch it while doing some like working out and stuff. Really enjoyed doing that. And then I remember one time I did actually think, right, okay, well let's try and like order like it was like Hell in a Cell that year. I remember, and my parents at the time had well, still have Virgin Media, so we ordered the event to try and tape it so that I could then watch it like when it was actually convenient. And of course, I think I knew probably going in it maybe it wasn't going to work, but yeah, it was they had the copy protection thing, so wasn't able to record it because this was just going to a VHS at the time. I don't no we didn't have like a DVR or anything, so back then. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, 2010 is kind of actually when I feel like I'm going all over the place, Tom. And so yeah, please rein me in if you want to.
Dude, this is
Yeah,
just how my conversations go.
yeah,
I'm
that's
sure.
right. No, it's fine. It's nice. It's a conversationless tone, and it's really good. So hopefully the audience will like this as well. Yeah. But yeah, 2010. It was a case of that was when I sort of got. I started like being able to thinking, oh, I can actually watch this like regularly again because a few years ago, a few years before that, I think it stopped being shown on like we had Sky One on Virgin and things like that, and so yeah, I wasn't able to like watch it as much at the time. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying there. She
Yeah.
talked about wrestling podcasts and some of the ones you like,
Mhm.
but who are the podcasts currently then that you're like, I will check out an episode?
Oh, right. Okay. Well, besides your show, of course, which so get to see who's editing it and stuff. But the Arn show as well. Oh God, I don't know what others. Yeah, Arn show. Oh, Click This. Yeah, Click This is a. I mean, of course, that's not like strictly a wrestling podcast. Kevin and Sean they talk about all sorts of stuff, but always make it entertaining. Always learn something with that show. But yeah, I think that the main ones right now, unless I'm forgetting, are Arn show, 83 weeks,
Hmm,
and Click This. I think. I'm sure I'm
really,
forgetting
really
some.
cool. Why does those podcasts speak to you, do you think?
Well, I like I'm a fan of all of like, and I'm a fan of all of the personalities involved, and they all bring something different to the table too. So, like with Eric Bischoff's show, yeah, he's talking about the business behind it, and even though I've heard it so many times about how he came up with like Nitro and things, I still find it really interesting, hearing about that. And again, I feel like I'm bouncing around maybe a bit, but. I wasn't able to see Nitro really when it was on. So that whole Monday Night War thing, I did miss out on that. So kind of, again, that same friend, yeah, Rob, he was able to, yeah, I think he didn't have Sky at the time himself because again, yeah, he was, it was through tapes. That's how we were sort of both enjoying wrestling. Yeah, I remember he was able to, I think, visit a friend of his and record like Nitro. This was '98, and it was like one of the first 3 hour ones. And I remember him lending me the tape, and I was just like blown away. And it was the one where Goldberg was at the US title, and the main event was it. Oh, was it Hall versus Hall? Sorry, Nash versus Hogan, I think. But the reason why I'm unsure is because, and I have seen it since, but the reason it's still a little bit sketchy is because unfortunately somebody must have like switched the channel while it was being recorded. So I was watching well, yeah, so we weren't able to see it. But one thing I remember loving about it in particular was how it just seemed like was it like Bobby Heenan on commentary was like making it sound like, oh, this might go on all night, we don't know when it's going to end. The show, it just sounded nice and a bit like Netflix now, I think, with Raw, the fact that it doesn't have to finish at a certain time. So it was exciting and it was live, of course, even though I wasn't watching it live. Yeah, I've forgotten actually what your question was, Tom. It was to do
Yeah,
with,
just like
yeah.
when did you sort of watch wrestling live, sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, the first time watching it live, I think, was, yeah, that live show, one night only in Birmingham. Yeah, that was, I mean, of course, it wasn't, yeah, it was live, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it recorded. I can't remember if it was recorded and was it
I can't
broadcast?
remember. I wasn't
No,
watching wrestling at that point. So,
no, fair enough, Tom. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, anyway, yeah.
so then how does it go from, you mentioned you went to uni with a good friend of ours, Ben Veal.
That's right. Yeah.
So how does it then go from I like I like podcasts, I like wrestling. How do you get into this crazy space and we start working together? And Ben, things like
Yeah,
that.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's thanks to you, really, Tom. It really is. I'm not just saying that. Um, yeah, it was literally a case of I remember being here it was a Friday night, and I've been on Twitter, and I was having a few drinks, and I think earlier in that day I'd seen that you'd put out a tweet about asking if somebody could edit something for you, and I can't remember the specifics. And I remembered, yeah, seeing it at the time and thinking, oh, I just didn't think, oh, I don't know, I just didn't think I'd maybe be what you wanted or something like that. But anyway, then later on, I think it's a case of, yeah, after a few, a bit of Dutch courage, I thought, oh, I think did I say, oh, sorry, I missed this or something? I made something up saying like, oh, sorry, I missed this, or you've probably got somebody now or something like that to edit.
Something like that,
Something
yeah.
like that. And anyway, I think that very evening we then just started like DMing and just and the first thing I do remember the first thing I did for you, which was the that intro which Andy and Adam of What Culture had kindly recorded for you.
Oh yeah.
So cool. I remember just seeing that and thinking these are people I've seen on like my TV or the computer and how they were, you know, it was they were addressing you and I just thought and I'm getting to edit it and I thought this was fantastic.
So
That was the first thing. Yeah.
the way that came about
Yeah.
was me and Andy are friendly
That's great.
through
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah.
he's been on the show before and
Yeah.
things. I've sent questions in for
Yeah.
question shows and things like that. And we're just friendly. And I just sent him a DM being like, I want to update my intro. When you and Adam do the news, would
Mhm.
you? And you went, and he just said, yeah, I'd love to. And I was like, thank you very much. Like I I was a bit like you. Fan of him, didn't expect him to say yes. But when he did, I was like, thank you very much.
That's right. Yeah. No, yeah, it's incredible, really, isn't it? I mean, we're all, all people at the end of the day, but still to sort of, yeah, to interact with somebody who, just, somebody who's like, quite famous, really. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's really,
Yeah.
really cool.
So yeah, so basically it was that, of course, and then started actually, did a few more things you didn't I? And then we, started editing the weekly show, and then it was pretty much from that yeah, Ben was like looking to start doing his show, and also, I mean, Ben had also like seen like some like I've done like some parody. I mean, I've done that Vince McMahon parody video, which maybe we'll talk about in a bit. But also done some satirical things as well. So Ben knew that I could do that sort of thing like production wise, and and known each other for well, God, 20 coming up to 22 years now. So it was yeah, it seemed like a no-brainer really.
You say Ben knew you could do that stuff. Was that sort of your talent at uni then? Sort of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, not to put myself over, use wrestling parlance too much. Yeah, I studied, again, people might think this is weird. I studied communication studies because I feel like I'm struggling a bit right now. Yeah, I did communication studies, which, I wanted to do a degree which had a good, like, academic footing, which would hopefully, hold me in good stead for, the world outside of uni. But I wanted to, at the time, I wanted to get into radio or like production mainly.
Mm.
So I did all the production courses I could do. So I did some DTP as well, desktop publishing, yeah, video production. Yeah, actually, video production back then I wasn't. Actually, it's funny. I wasn't. Yeah, I was kind of like I was just so focused on audio at the time. So the radio side of things. So
Mm.
that's what uh, but yeah, no, I'm great. So grateful I did all of that because it's helped me and it's still helped me to this day. So yeah, that's right. So at university, I just used to try and do as much of the production stuff as I could. Oh, I didn't like. I mean, at the time there was the option to do like a piece of radio for like the dissertation, but I thought, oh no, maybe I better do something a bit more traditional writing and things. But yeah, I don't know. Part of me thought maybe I should have just done something like like a longer radio piece. But oh, anyway, it's all in the past now.
You say it's all in the past now. Do you look back and go, if I'd done that, maybe I'd have a radio show? Or do you have any regrets? I'll put it that way.
Oh, good God. In life, probably quite a few, but then again, no, I don't know. I'm not sure because I mean, while things are still trying to build things up now, I think that I'm quite happy generally where things are right now. It's an exciting time. Um, and that's the other thing. I mean, yeah, so I did try to look at some like, radio, well, I tried looking for like radio opportunities after university. or actually going into advertising as well. That was the other thing. Like again, being creative. But yeah, with radio, I mean, even before as a student, I could see that like, the local radio was it was the same no matter whether you were here, like East Anglia, whether you were in like Wales, the jingles were all pretty much the same. Apart from like BBC Radio, but again, not that many opportunities to be creative, like say do I like drama, like or just something where you're creating sound effects, doing fun stuff. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying completely there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I spoke to Ben about this off camera when we recorded the episode that goes out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know from your perspective though, because he says that without being rude, if you weren't editing my show, you wouldn't be editing his. I'm always confused. How do the two connect?
Yeah, well, that's right. So yeah, actually, maybe that's kind of jogged my memory a bit because so maybe actually those other bits and pieces maybe they didn't have an impact, but yeah, literally it was a case of I'd been editing your show for because Wrestling Life launched in October 2023, and it was it I think is it June 2023 when I started doing the actual no it was April 2023 was it when I started doing your editing?
Started doing it properly. I'm not sure, but I know Sean Ross Sapp was the first.
That was the first one. Yep, that's right. Then was that episode 150 or something?
That was that might have been around April 2022 then.
Yeah.
2023, sorry.
2023, because actually, I remember that the first time, I honestly, I'm generally pretty good at remembering things, but that's right, that conversation we had, to do with editing that What Culture intro. I remember it was it was the Jubilee weekend, 2022, and I just remember like just being here, chilling out initially, and then ended up forming like a friendship. Well, we'd already been friends on like Twitter, hadn't we? But like sort of striking a bit of a business like partnership and that, and that's really cool. But yeah, I think it was Ben seeing what I'd done for you that definitely gave him the that made him realize that I could do his wrestling podcast because I just remembered that of course Ben and I do edit this as well. Ben does actually have another podcast. I'm happy to promote it, of course. He has a PR podcast. Yeah, Good Journeys. Yeah, and that's right. Another friend of his who's actually closer to where he lives, he was doing the initial editing of that. But this guy's more of like a filmmaker, really. I mean, that's something I'd like to look and do more of that camera work myself. But yeah, that's right. It kind of made sense, really. Ben was like happy for for me to work on both his shows essentially. So it was a case of so I started working on your show. Then it was a case of Wrestling Life, getting that going, and then it was a case of it worked out for everybody that I'd then take over doing the production on his other show as well. So you've got a lot. I've got a lot to thank you for. You've played a huge part in this, Tom.
I really appreciate that, my friend. How different is editing a podcast when like I had an established formula before you came on board, whether it be generic wrestling questions, things like that, and we'll get into how you created the stuff for that in a second.
Oh yeah.
But like, how different is it? Like you were on the ground floor of Wrestling Life, so you and Ben. Is it more of a collaborative effort, shall we say, rather than me saying, this is what I want done?
Yeah, more or less, though I do still feel like we collaborate because we sort of bounce ideas off a bit, don't we, Tom? Definitely. Yeah, with Wrestling Life, it was kind of like from the ground up sort of thing. Yeah, like that's exactly it, like just coming up with everything from scratch. So Ben, for instance, came up with the initial logo for Wrestling Life, and I remember we had quite a discussion about like trying to come up with a name for the show, and I gave a few ideas, but in hindsight, none of them were that great, really. Actually, I don't know if Ben, I haven't actually edited that episode of the show yet, but I don't know if Ben mentioned, but it's actually Ben's wife who came up with Wrestling Life, that name.
Really? No, he didn't.
Yeah,
really?
And it's a really good name. Yeah. And I just remember the weeks leading up to the first episode. It was God, I don't know how many different designs we did of like the Zoom wrapper and things like that. The framework and coming up with the intro sequence, which initially it was a lot of stock footage because at the time we didn't have any guests, to feature, having been on the show. So it was a case that yeah, just wanted to have something engaging, something compelling, and yeah, net was. And I know I've changed that intro so many times now, but it's definitely for the better now. And initially it was a piece of stock music for the theme music was stock music, whereas because at the time I didn't think I'm not a guitarist, but at the time I didn't think I could come up with something that sounded like with a rock edge.
Mm.
But then it became a case where we wanted to try and monetize this channel, and YouTube can. Yeah, you know this yourself, don't you? Because I mean, your theme music
Definitely.
came up with your theme music. Well, if you can call it music, the sort of dubsteppy type thing. But when I've used other bits of music which seemed right for your specials, initially we had some issues with the YouTube. YouTube's been stupid, wasn't it?
I
Well,
didn't like it
it's,
whenever we've done like a top 10 list.
yeah, that's it. That's the sort of
Initially,
thing.
it didn't like the music we were using.
Yeah, that's right. So it was a case we had to sort of challenge that, and yeah, it got sorted though. So, but
Oh yeah,
yeah, but no, I was pleased. I like to try and come up with, I like to leave like have an impact on things if I can. Leave my like a creative footprint on work I do. But yeah, it just only if it's going to work though, because again, I just had to be sure that I could come up with something which was right. So. Yeah, so yes, Wrestling Life is a case of it was definitely a collaboration and a lot of back and forth and oh, yeah, just again that first episode done, and especially with the computer that I had at the time, that was fun because
yeah.
it would take ages to render and honestly, I'll hold my hand up when I make mistakes. The first render, something didn't fade out properly or was still on screen when it shouldn't be, and I was like, oh. I'm gonna have to do this again, so I'm not happy with this. And yeah, so yeah, it was a labor of love, shall we say? Yeah, to start with. But yeah, enjoy it still, of course, and it's hopefully it's doing good, and hopefully it will continue. Yeah.
Definitely. What is some of the differences between working for me and working for Ben, do you think?
Um, God, that's a really good question. Well, you both got different personalities. I mean, Ben, I've known Ben for like 20 odd years and everything, so it's a bit different, I guess. But I think with you, I'm sort of more fitting into, you know, what you want for the show in terms of like, the generic wrestling questions and that sort of thing.
Mm.
Um, yeah, those are pretty much the main difference, really. Just you're both like passionate about what you do, and you both want things to look and sound good, and try and do that. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're both yeah, you're both great people, basically.
What is the quickest turnaround you've ever had on a podcast for either of us, Geoff?
Oh God. Right. Trying to think if it's been.
That is the right word, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, turnaround. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Trying to think if like. Oh, yeah. I think I'm pretty sure there's been a time where I can't remember exactly. I think there's been a time where something has come to me at the beginning of the day, and I've just gone, or at least it's been a case of maybe it was decided that it should go out sooner rather than later. So it's a case of literally turn it around within a day, essentially. It depends on the kind of the podcast and what's involved, but it can take quite a long time to do, a show. And that taps into something which can be a frustration of mine is, there's a term like content creator these days, and everybody wants just content and
Mm.
oh, and for instance, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday I saw like on LinkedIn, which I use quite a bit, to varying degrees of success. Or well, I saw somebody posting that like Mr. Beast, I think he's got a little channel, doesn't he? He's doing all right, I think, Mr. Beast. Yeah, he has advertising for like a content. Sorry, creative producer role, and it was described as like an entry level position. And I didn't
Mm.
look into it, but the reason I saw this post, it was just somebody was saying like, since when did that become an entry level position? And other posts I saw which were saying about how yeah, people who do social media content, they wear many hats. Back in TV, you'd have one person doing like one role or maybe two at most. Yeah, I just hope that, well, I feel things maybe are a little bit devalued in
Oh,
certain
definitely.
sectors. Yeah, not certainly not saying that with you or with Ben, but just what I see when other instances out there.
Mm.
Yeah,
I say this to you all the time, And this is where I joked
Yeah.
at the start of the conversation, the man that makes me look good.
Oh
It's
no, I
like,
tried.
it's like you watch some of them early episodes where I was obsessed with just getting them out, sort of thing, before we had a structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no good, no good, like no good. You've definitely brought a lot to the channel, my friend. I'll be honest.
Oh, thank you so much, Tom. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. It's been a team. It's been teamwork. It's a team, because I mean,
Definitely.
I say that to Ben as well, and I think I say it to Ben. I hope I do. I mean, I certainly think that, because at the end of the day, if you and him aren't recording your respective shows, then I don't have anything to edit. And yeah, I mean, technically, while you could say that, oh, the file, the thing that people are seeing on screen, technically, is it the product of what, I rendered off this computer essentially. But, it's just, yeah, all parts are important. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and I think good production, I think if I can offer that, I think that it can make a difference. And I think it still is appreciated, even if it's just making sure that somebody's like easy to understand, with the audio being okay.
Mm.
Um, and I think that yeah, you've changed your microphone over time and things, and and of course, with you changing like where you're now in your flat, aren't you? So therefore, now you've got a space which you hopefully feel more comfortable in, and
Mm.
it all plays a part.
You talk about me having my flat now.
Yeah,
The what you obviously remember the run-ins we used to get from my family.
that's right. Yes, totally.
Living at my mum's place. All
Oh,
loving my family, but I think the most embarrassing run-in I ever had was, I don't
yeah,
know if you edited this one or if this was during the um how do I put this? During the pre-you era, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Where literally my mum's come in from work, desperate for the bathroom, and has had to run.
I don't remember that one. I think that
That
must have
must
been,
have been pre-you then, but it
yeah,
was with go from between two beards. And literally, this is why I blur my background now,
yeah,
because like I never know what people are gonna do behind me. It's not
yeah,
so bad. I've lived on my own, but
yeah, yeah. That's right.
so for you then, Geoff, what makes a good podcast editor?
Oh, good podcast editor. Yeah, I think, well, somebody who can, obviously can edit well, and yeah, so that's a stating the obvious. Yeah, yeah, again, that's a really good question. What's the answer? Well, I suppose ultimately a good editor is, it's more what you don't see, like what you don't see or hear, in a sense of, I like to think that, I like to think I'm good at what I do, but also I like to think I'm good to work with. So, you
Oh,
know,
definitely.
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So like, having good being personable, having good, personal skills, yeah, personal skills. Yes, communication at the end of the day, and being like realistic with time frames. Yeah, again, communication, just keeping people in the loop. For instance, if there's a technical issue, and something is stopping, like say, stopping
You're
me.
very good at that. Sometimes I think I'm terrible.
What?
Like, sometimes you're very good at that.
Yeah,
Sometimes I think I'm bad at it
yeah, that's
because
what yeah, I don't think you are, Tom, but yeah. How
no,
do
only because, right? Sometimes I sit down all the time because I'm in a wheelchair, but
you?
sometimes I don't get time to sit down and reply to emails and stuff till like 10 o'clock at night. So I do
Oh,
feel bad sometimes when I've emailed you at half 10 and you've gone, oh, I'll deal with that in the morning. I'm really sorry, mate. And it's like, I get that. Sorry.
yeah, oh, it's okay. Yeah, oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, definitely there have been times, definitely, and I've replied late as well. But yeah, sometimes it's best not to, because I think you can just yeah, I think it's better for one's like mental, well, mental whatever hell, it's just generally good to have like, yeah, have like a bit of a structure if possible. But no, I understand why you do it, because with your, all that you have going on, your like your work and your activities, you're not always there to write the emails at the time. So yeah, that's right. I try to get back to you. Yeah, that's the thing. If I can't get to
I'll
you,
put it this way, dude.
yeah.
Finding the scheduling button, because I didn't know till recently you can schedule emails to go out on
Oh, right.
Gmail.
Yeah.
So finding that button has been a blessing because people don't think I'm messaging them at like 1 o'clock in the morning, which sometimes I was back then.
Yeah, that's right. Rock and rolling.
It's
Yeah.
quite funny.
Yeah.
So what is your goal then, Geoff? Either what would you like to see from Wrestling Life or Tom Talks Rubbish or Good Journeys? And then what is your ultimate goal as an editor or
Oh,
producer?
right. Well, yeah, well, I'd like to see all shows do well. Yeah, yeah, I'd like to see them all do well. I'm just thinking with like the Good Journeys one. I mean, those are, yeah, again, quality conversations. They're about various topics. So maybe they don't fit into like a specific. I was going to say I don't think they fit into a specific niche, but then they kind of do in terms of inspirational stories that can hopefully help
Mm,
people. Um, so yeah, I think that all those, your show and Ben's shows could and should, do well. As for me, yeah, I hope to make Toilet Productions like sustainable, and I hope it to become, well, essentially like what I do, is what I'm doing now, but it's still quite early days, shall we say. So
mm.
yeah, I'm just hoping I can, earn a living, a sustainable living from it, really. Because yeah, no, I started it essentially when I got made redundant. I was doing the
Oh
work
yeah.
for you, but then I did get made redundant. It was in 2023, and that that just made me think, oh, maybe there's a chance here. And Ben's been really helpful with, advising me about things because, he runs a business himself. So
Mm.
yeah, I've still got a lot to learn, but yeah. So yeah, that's my goal essentially. I'd like to keep doing what I'm doing, but build on it too. Do like, actually more like, I'm amassing like camera equipment and things, to go out and do filming like on the road. So that'd be great. Yeah. Do a bit of everything, or more or less. Yeah.
That's really, really cool, my friend. A bit of a self-indulgent question from me on
Okay.
this side. I'm curious to know this.
Yeah.
Who was the interview that maybe me or Ben have sent you and you've gone, oh my days, guys, you got this person?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a yeah, another great question, Tom. Right, with you, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it was great, with you. I mean, yeah, you got to like record with Chris Van Vliet. I mean, that was great, and lovely conversation, and yeah, and you really enjoyed it as well. So
That was one that I like. Yeah, I could retire tomorrow and be his
yeah,
friend.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You mentioned that using that very phrase. Yeah. Um, so yeah, for you probably, but then there's so many, Tom. I mean, okay, I mean some of the people you interview I wasn't like, aware of beforehand, but that's not their problem. That's like my problem, really. But yeah, I mean you had Dan Brown on recently, didn't you? And he's a like successful comedian, isn't he? And
yeah.
yeah, and also a wrestling fan too. Yeah, with Ben, oh God, with his shows.
There's so
Oh,
many with Ben.
sorry, say again, sir.
There's so many with Ben. He's done very
Oh no,
well
but
with
I
it.
think no, yeah, well, no, you have as well too. I think with Ben, probably, I think yeah, it was great. Oh no, there've been so many, but oh yeah, yeah. I think when Eric Bischoff was on the show, I thought that was like really quite, that was quite surreal too, especially given again, listen to his one, watch his podcast. So, and seeing him recording, from this, the very same, environment he does his show. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think I'd probably say like those would be my answers for both shows. I'd say probably.
That's really, really cool. Just quickly before we do success, failure, and generic questions,
Yeah.
how do you deal with burnout, Geoff, as a creator? Maybe I've sent you say it and you think, I'm tired. I don't want to do this today, sort of thing. How do you deal with that sort of burnout?
Yeah, I just try to have like a structure in place and keep like the production manageable. So if something's going to take, say, maybe a day or something, I'll maybe try and spread it over a couple of days and things like
Mm,
that, possibly. But it does depend. If you've got a deadline, just try and break down what needs to be done to meet that deadline. Maybe compartmentalize it. So yeah, like doing like a podcast and things, it can be there's so many different steps, like with the editing, the like say sourcing images, and you can have like a checklist really, thinking, oh, okay, I've done that, and you still need to do this. It does depend, Tom. It really does. Yeah.
that's really, really cool, my friend. as we look at wrapping this up, because I don't want to be respectful of your time,
Thanks, Tom.
the questions I ask at this point is like, do you view your career as a success so far? And what do you think the legacy you want to leave is? But I'm curious to know as well, as we're celebrating Tom Talks Rubbish this month and Wrestling Life, what do you think the legacy of those two shows are as well?
Right. Okay. Well, say the legacy of. I mean, yeah. I think with both myself, but also your show and Wrestling Life. I think it's all still a journey. So I think it's probably too early to say about like a definitive legacy. But no, I mean, saying that, I'd say with both your show and Ben's shows, um, quality conversations. Use that phrase I mentioned earlier. They're engaging, and I think that I think they're supported by good production values too. Um, yeah, and I think there's a place for them. There's so many podcasts out there, but there's definitely a place for them all. To tell the stories of the guests. So yeah, so I say hopefully that looking back on it, yeah, hopefully that the shows will continue for like many many years, if not more. But even if years down the line, if they're still hopefully going, people can still think, oh, these are shows where we're getting great content. But people who care about what they're doing. Yeah, as for me, yeah, I think it's too early. Yeah, definitely too early. I'd like to think years down the line, maybe people could think, oh, I'm a guy who created good work and was good to work with too. On my website, like for my business, which I mean, yeah, it's a business. It's getting there. I say, oh, your creative partner for mutual growth, which types into the whole tall oak thing because nature's important. And my dad was in the Forestry Commission. He did well there, and yeah, he's. I've mentioned he's now unfortunately in a care home, so it's things are rather different. But yeah, so I like to think that really I'm kind of continuing his love of nature on a little bit, and yeah, yeah, where I live, a lot of trees around, which is quite nice. And yeah, so anyway, but what I try to say is like, your creative partner for mutual growth because, I'm, let's say, is it from tall oaks, from small acorns to like tall oaks grow and things like that.
Tall
So,
oaks grow, essentially, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, God, I really should know how to say that, shouldn't I? Yeah. I like to think that I'm supporting people who I work with for them to grow, but also grow myself as well. So it's a mutual benefit. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I'd say legacy really, and as a success as of now, yeah. Again, I need to keep plugging away. Need to keep carrying on with things.
I think when you're a creator, it's very hard to see success until like months down the line, and you go, "Oh, I did do that." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think with both, how your channel's like grown and if I've had a part in that and then like Wrestle Life too, I think that yeah, I guess those are successes too. And yeah, I think so. Yeah, generally speaking, it's so far doing okay, but yeah, looking to build further. And
You'll get
yeah,
there, dude. You're so
if anyone
close.
hearing this needs like production work, then yeah, give me a shout. That's the thing.
You'll get there, dude. You're so talented that you'll
Oh,
get there.
appreciate that. Yeah.
So as we look at wrapping this up, Jeff, actually before we do, I'm curious to know, like we're gonna do generic questions in a second,
Yeah.
but like, how did you sort of come up with the okay, let's have some text when Tom's doing generic questions and then the images? How did we come up with that? Because I can't quite remember.
Yeah. That was it was a case of trying because yeah, you told me that you wanted the text, and it was a case of right, how do we get this text to fit into the existing Zoom wrapper? I think I call
Yeah.
it a wrapper or frame. Because I think that was a graphic designer you used back in the day who came up with that. So I think did I edit it a little? No, I have definitely edited it a little bit
I
in the
think
past.
you've edited it, but
Yeah.
I think Billy made that, to be fair.
Oh, okay. Oh God, I thought that was before Billy came. Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Cool.
Because, like yourself, before, as we'll see in the episode that went out last week,
Yeah.
Billy had done little bits and pieces before he became full time, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. Right. Okay. Yeah. So um Yeah, so anyway, yeah, so what I did was I just wanted to like try and fit the text in well, get the styling to look, get the color scheme to match as well.
Mm.
Yeah, and just fit it into the existing space and yeah, just try and be creative with it too, so that it doesn't because you don't want text like covering, yourself. I know we have images covering you, but just, they only appear for like a brief amount of time.
Mm.
And again, it's just a way of just trying to get everything we want on screen to look okay. And yeah, so I think that's how we came up with it, really. Yeah, I changed it a little bit, didn't I? From initially, it was just because we were calling it generic questions, and
I
now it's just
think
yes,
that is
yeah,
because, and you corrected me in this in DMs, it
yeah,
was because I used to just say generic questions.
yes, yes,
Now I do say generic wrestling
yeah.
questions.
That's
So I
right.
believe starting this
It
year.
was, it was. I kept thinking to myself, oh God, yeah, maybe I should just change this, because it's one of those things where, like the, attention to detail, I guess, and thinking, oh, let's get this, let's get it to match. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And it
get
makes
that.
more sense, really, because they are generic questions about wrestling, and they're not really, with a few exceptions, they're not really about other topics. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Occasionally, if I have someone involved in movies or
Yes,
like
that's
Dan
automatic.
Brown, or we
Yeah.
spoke about comedy and I might ask generic comedy questions, but like
Mm.
occasionally. But speaking of that, Geoff, my
Oh
good
yeah.
friend, we are now going to do a segment that, as you know, is a staple on this channel, and it's called Generic Wrestling Questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before, and that's where Geoff will be asked his favorite match, favorite pay-per-view card, such as Double or Nothing 2019, for example, his favorite wrestler's entrance theme, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. Basically, the questions I assume you're asked on social media or in other places. So now you'll have a place to be like, I've answered this. Please go watch this. So, what's your favorite match of all time?
Right. Let's hope I can remember my answers, because of course I've been giving this a lot of thoughts on. Right. Favorite match. Yeah. No, this one. Yeah. It's well. I mean, there's so many great matches out there, and there's so many great matches I could technically choose. I'm gonna say it's been mentioned, it's been given as an example so many times. Yeah, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, WrestleMania 25. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking for you, because you normally ask people, don't you, why is that my favorite match? But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's basically that was the first match I remember. Yeah, yeah, I remember watching that. Yeah, actually live, actually with Ben and a few other university mates. This was after university, but yeah, I remember like watching it like live, so in the wee hours of the morning, and it being like edge of your seat sort of viewing. Case of like is the streak going to end? That's the reason, really. Yeah, yeah. I just remember that was the first time, and was that the first time when maybe not when you had like the false finishes. It
It
just
was
yeah.
it was sort of, in my opinion, I'd say it was sort of the first match that you definitely go, he could lose this here, sort of thing.
Yeah, that might be what it is. Yeah, because again, I feel like I went all over the place with my story earlier, but yeah. So at that point, yes, that was 2009. So yeah, at that point, I was my consumption of wrestling at the time was, I forgot to, yeah, I didn't mention this, was literally, it was through Power Slam magazine. That beloved, much missed. I mean, there's Inside the Ropes now, but yeah, Power Slam was, it's tremendous. So yeah, so this was like first time in a while I'd actually seen. I think the first time I'd seen some wrestling for like a live match, live pay-per-view or
Hmm.
PLE. Yeah, so that was yeah, it was brilliant to watch. And and the other, of course, the success of the following years like rematch, that was, I mean, that was an excellent match too. But yeah, I think because of like being there in the moment, albeit like watching it, it was in Norwich at the time, on probably on no, it wasn't, it was live. It was yeah, just watching it around Ben's place, and just yeah, just caught up in the moment, really. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. What about your favorite overall pay-per-view card, my friend?
Right, yeah. Again, there's so many to choose. Probably gonna say, yeah, even though the match was, yeah, WrestleMania 25, yeah, 25. I'm gonna say WrestleMania 30, possibly, because yeah, the way that the fans just really dictated that Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson became, because he wasn't even going to be on. Was he not going to be on the card, or certainly not in the main
I think
event?
he had a match against Sheamus, if memory serves.
Oh,
As in, I think they said the match he was going to have was going to be against Sheamus.
oh, I see. So is it? Yeah, I see. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so yeah, I can remember that. No, that's good, Tom. So yeah, that was it was excellent to it was a great event. I mean, it was in that big, the big the Superdome, of course, and been the 30th one. And actually I did get to watch that not live in person, but live. I was actually back living with my parents briefly because the place I was living at the time had some some like well, I was getting home improvements, also some like damp needed to be
Ah,
sorted out. So actually, I was unemployed at the time as well, so God, it was all going on. So I literally was watching that live, at my parents' place, like wee hours of the morning, and the next day I needed to go and like sign on at the job centre. So I remember like just rolling out of bed like with about 4 hours sleep or whatever, and getting myself down there and presenting like my book, saying what I'd been doing that week to try and find a job and all this sort of stuff, and just trying to seem like barely awake.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's right. And then watching that event, I just remember kept thinking, I'm really enjoying this. I'm just gonna enjoy this before having to worry about like being shattered the next day, stuff.
I
And
understand what you're saying completely, my friend.
yeah, yeah,
What about just quickly,
yeah.
Undertaker's streak? Every time everyone brings up 30,
Oh,
should
yeah.
Lesnar have beaten him?
No, that's the thing. That's right. So despite me saying that, I'd say that's my favorite event, and no, I mean that's the thing, Tom. I can't. I haven't got a better answer to give, but I'll say probably 30 for the best of favorite pay-per-view. But but no, that's the thing exactly. I don't think the Undertaker streak should have ended. No, I couldn't believe that. I think I was like looking away, wincing when he got that third F5, and then when he got pinned, I was just like, what? I was like a bit like that guy in the front row, or like most people in the arena. Yeah, exactly. I was just like, oh, yeah, I won't repeat what I probably said, but yeah, I was shocked. Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough, my
Yeah,
friend.
do you
What
feel
about
it
you?
yourself, Tom? I'm sorry, do you feel I think you probably feel the same about the Undertaker streak and
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that he should have, if he was going to lose it.
yeah.
And fair enough, we didn't know where his health was going to be and wrestling and his ability to wrestle. He should have lost it to Roman. I didn't mind Roman winning, but I didn't like Brock winning first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying because really, yeah, what was there to prove?
Hmm.
What and Brock, sorry, and Brock was already an established. Well, Roman Reigns kind of. No, at that point Roman wasn't, was he? No, he was still in the Shield. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I probably agree with you though. But at the same time, I don't know. I think I would just like the streak to not be broken. Uh,
Oh, in my heart, let me re-emphasize. In
yeah,
my heart of hearts, he shouldn't have been beaten.
yeah.
But if he had to be beaten, is what I'm saying.
Ah, I see. Yes.
Like if because Taker's old school, like give back to the business and all that. He was going to be beaten one way or the other.
Right.
Roman should have beaten him, and that should have been it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I have to agree with you there, Tom. Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense.
Glad Punk didn't beat him the year before, otherwise that could have caused some problems.
Oh, right. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about that, I think every time I watched one of those matches, I think I was always kind of, hoping maybe in some ways this, well, not every match, but like, yeah, I think with that Punk one in 29, yeah, I think, yeah, because I'm a big fan of CM Punk, I think I was hoping that he'd win, but I think it'd be a case of like where, one of those things in life where I can't think of an example, but where you're excited that the chance something could happen, you kind of want it to, but as soon as it happens, you're going to be like, oh no, no, that sense of loss. Because
Mm.
again, when the streak got broken, it's like, well, yeah, it's no longer a thing. Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying completely there. And then what about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme, Jeff?
Right, okay, I'll try not to ramble so much with this, but right, so I've got technically, oh, well, there's so many great songs, so many themes. I'll give two if I may. First one is this has never been picked on your show, as far as I remember. I'm going to say Jake Roberts' original WWF theme.
Oh
I think that's a
wow.
great song. And actually, I was able to well, I basically just reached out to Jim Johnston like a God, a year ago. I basically was just, I was just curious just to ask him like about because I'm interested in music production. I wanted to like know how he created that song, for instance, because it's got such an interesting sound. It's immersive. It's a lot of echo in it, and it doesn't sound overly produced, but
Mm.
that's in the nicest way possible. It's a great bit of music, and it was and yeah, and he basically revealed that that song was something he came up with himself, and that Vince happened to like it, and then used it for, for Jake's entrance. Because I did know that it was actually. Did you maybe you knew this, Tom? That music was actually used on a home video, on
I
the
didn't
Coliseum
know.
when Hulk Hogan was doing like a gym routine thing. I remember seeing that as a kid. That was another tape of him.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah. I
was
have
used for
seen that
that.
actually.
Yeah, and I didn't know like what the chronology was of that, but because it could have been that maybe Jake was using that as a theme then, and it just happened to also be used, or but yeah, it was a bit of music that Jim had come up with I think a couple of years beforehand, and he told me like he used like a very early piece of like music software, which just kind of blew my mind, because I'm interested in that sort of thing, and yeah, I was really interested to hear that, and um, yeah, the other thing basically I'd asked him was that because I was listening to some of his other songs, I was thinking I was pretty sure he had a particular keyboard that I was lucky to get myself, and an old bit of kit, same age as me, and he basically confirmed that yeah, he had the same keyboard back in the day, and I was thinking I thought you did, but I wasn't. Yeah, and the other song I'd say, the other theme would be the Great Muters 1996 theme, his
Oh, really?
JPW, that great fusion of like sort of East and Western like sounds. So it's a little bit techno-y, I guess, but got those like the code is it koto, the Japanese instruments as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, so it's a great bit of music, really uplifting, yeah.
that's really, really cool. What about your favorite tag team?
Right, tag team, yeah. I think I'm gonna give a historic one, I think, if okay, and then a current one.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, I think Heart Foundation, I think, for historic team. I mean, the Bulldog, the British Bulldogs, of course, as well. But well, so, yeah, so relatively recent. Probably the Shield, really. I loved their like, their matches. They were just I think they were like groundbreaking at the time, the way that all three of them would be involved in a match. And again, even though I haven't seen much of FTW, sorry, of AEW, I've just given it away. I haven't seen much of AEW in recent times. I mean, FTR, what I've seen of them, I mean,
Yeah,
they're yeah, they're like this generation's like four horsemen, aren't they? So I mean, I could say them for there were so many great teams at the time, yeah, yeah. I'll probably just say yeah, Shield for current tag, well, more recent times, and Heart Foundation, I think, if that's yeah, we'll say that, yeah.
that's really, really cool. And then finally, Geoff, the biggest generic question, in my opinion. Who is your favorite overall wrestler of all time?
Right, okay, well, not influenced by Ben because, work on his shows, but I think historically it's got to be Bret Hart, yeah, I think, and got yeah, I would say the pleasure, though it was an incredibly stressful day. I did get the pleasure of meeting Bret Hart. It was just before Clash at the Castle. The same day there was like this terribly organized fan fest thing
This
in
weren't
us.
the thing that Andrew Pollard chaired, was it?
No, oh God, no, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say that if he was involved. No, no, that was no. This was a thing called WrestleFest, and it was held in like a sweaty old nightclub in Cardiff. Queues out the door, but I mean that's partly because of the popularity of it, but also just because of oh, I think it was badly managed, basically. I think it was where Tyson Fury was there too, and apparently maybe was he a bit late, which might have had an impact. I'm not saying I could have done a better job organizing it, but it just wasn't a great overall experience of, because I mean, God, this was the first time I think I'd done any well significant travel since like lockdown and all this and
Yeah,
stuff, and I'm going to a big event and all this. Yeah, I sound like I'm a little kid, don't I? But yeah, it was a big. I remember it was like I was looking forward to the whole thing, but at the same time, just wanted it to go well. So anyway, yeah, just and then getting to meet Brett, it's such a quick experience. It's just a case of like just going there, sit down. I kind of need to get like the picture up, I suppose, on the wall or something. But I wasn't in the best shape back then, and I looked like I was trying to get comfortable as well, which I kind of was. So it was kind of one of those things, really. But yeah, so it was great to meet him and things, and just say how much I appreciate his career and all that, and yeah, and got like a signed photo. Current day, I'd say, yeah, CM Punk or Seth, or also like, Karrion Kross. I'd say I hope that he's gonna get, I hope he gets like to get to like the main event. I know he's like, more of like a heel and everything, but he's a cool heel too, and I just hope he does
Yeah.
get the recognition he deserves, because he's so creative. He puts a lot of effort into everything, and yeah. Oh, and maybe a little shout out to the first ever Wrestling Life guest, great British wrestler called Nathan Cruz. I hope to go see
Ooh.
him wrestle sometime. He's wrestling soon, actually. Well, I think it's tomorrow technically, but in Norwich. But right now, I'm not able to really go out and, you know, it's a bit of a little bit of a distance to get to. But also, right now, I'm just trying to tighten the belt a little bit. But I'm hoping to get to go and, see, support him and, some of the others, like, local stars. That'd be, well, British stars at least. But yeah, anyway, yeah.
That's really, really cool, my friend. As we wrap this up, Geoff, obviously I
Yeah.
want to say thank you for a great conversation.
Oh,
But
thanks,
the
Tom.
question
Yeah.
I end this show on, as you know, my friend,
Yeah.
is I believe as content creators, we're sort of gonna live forever in a very, very weird way, if you think about the word. So what is one piece of content you're like, remember me for that? And then what is one that you're like, nah, you can forget about that?
Right. Well, in terms of things to forget me for, in some ways, this conversation, because I've just rambled on for the past hour and a quarter or something like that. I don't know how long it's been.
Ah, dude,
Um,
you're cool.
yeah. No. But no, it's been a great conversation, and I hope everyone enjoys it. Yeah. So, no, something that I'd like to be remembered for. Well, like again, proud of what I've done for you and Ben. Yeah, I still, generally enjoyed making it, but the Vince McMahon parody, where
Oh, I love it.
that was kind of, oh, thanks. Yeah, that was kind of made, okay, only a couple of years ago, but before AI became something that someone's talking about every single day. I did all the voices myself. Sounds rather different to how I sound, but God damn it, pal, it was, that's a sort of, the voice took a bit of
That's a
getting.
very good Vince impression, by the way.
Thanks very much. Yeah, doing the "you're fired" bit, that was a bit like, oh, I need some water now. Yeah, and with Johnny Ace as well. I mean, that's the thing. I sort of I didn't want to pull any punches in that, and it required a bit of I had to overdub a few bits, like record a few bits subsequently, because of course it's a case of, is Vince back in the company? Is he out of the company? So I had to make it sound like as if he was talking from the current situation.
Mm.
And that took ages to make. I don't know, motivation. I just was, I was working full time, and I just was like, is anyone going to care? And I was agonized over the sound of it, and yeah. But yeah, so I'm proud of it really, and yeah, I hope that maybe if people haven't checked it out, they might want to listen to it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's my answer, Tom. Yeah.
It's well worth doing, guys. It's very funny. But as we wrap this up, obviously, I want to say thank you to Geoff for a great conversation. But please promote yourself, my friend. Where can the good people find you, your work, etc.?
Okay, thanks. Right, yeah, so I'm still on Twitter or X, for just, well, yeah, I think I'll stay on there probably, though don't really agree with the platform anymore. Yeah, I'm on, yeah, Jeffrey_Easton on that. So that's me. Black and white picture of me holding that belt, actually, that replica belt, obviously not the belt, that
Ah,
replica, trying to look cool. Not sure if I succeed. Yeah, and I'm also on Instagram as well. Yeah, sorry, on X. I'm on X with that, and also I've got for Torlik Productions, I've got Torlik Prods, just short. For also on Twitter and Instagram. Oh God, I think that's it really. And then like the website torlikproductions.com. Yeah, if you need some production work doing, like social media reels, podcasts, full blown videos, can pretty much everything really. I can turn my hand to anything. That'd be great, and help me to keep paying the electricity bill, which I need to put the heating on because I'm freezing, and that's why yeah. I didn't want to interrupt the interview, but anyway, but yeah, no, it'd be great. I'm really hoping to make a go of this. I feel now's the time to try and make something of this life and see how I get on. So yeah,
it's well
thanks
worth
again, Tom.
doing. It's well worth doing, guys. Probably the hardest working person in this space. Because, hey, guys, he has to make me look good. So please go and support him. But if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It's Tom Talk Rubbish on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, or as Geoff said, X at Tom Talks Rubbish. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.
Thanks for watching this Tom Talks Rubbish conversation. Before you go, please make sure you leave a like on the video, share it around and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish on YouTube, as well as follow Tom Talks Rubbish on Twitter/X.